Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another League of Legends guide. Today, we're covering AD carry Sivir.
I always take my toll, blood or gold.
For more of our content, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/egamingtv or on Twitter at egaming_TV. I do my Riot Point giveaways at the end of every month on the Twitter, so if you're interested in those, make sure you head over there and send me a follow. All of the links will be down in the video description, as will the timestamps if you are looking for certain parts of this champion guide. But now, let's hop right into Sivir. So, as usual, first we have her pros and cons. Now, Sivir is a champion with amazing wave clear. You can use both your Ricochet and your Boomerang Blade to instantly delete entire minion waves. Your Boomerang then has a really long range, and your Ricochet bounces over and over again, which gives you some pretty decent poke. Your spell shield then acts basically as an on-command Banshee's Veil with a lower cooldown, which makes it a very solid ability on an AD carry. Now, one of the main reasons you do pick a Sivir is for her On the Hunt ultimate, which is great in teamfights. You're able to grant your entire team movement speed, which makes engaging or escaping a hell of a lot easier. This ultimate, combined with your passive, is where you get your great chasing potential. Now, although she's a pretty good AD carry, she does have some cons, the first one being she is very mana hungry. Your Boomerang Blade will take a massive chunk of your mana out every time you use it, and until you have your Essence Reaver, sustaining your mana may be an issue. You then fall off a little bit in the late game. Now, of course, you still are an AD carry, and you can still easily carry a game, but you're not a hyper carry like a Kog'Maw or a Vayne. Another issue Sivir may run into is that she's one of the shorter ranged AD carries, at least her auto attack range. This means if you're against a bot lane combo like Zyra and Caitlyn or something that's generally long ranged, you may struggle to even get last hits unless when you have your Boomerang Blade available. But this ability is very dodgeable. With Sivir, I generally like to pick her with a support champion that does have a CC because you will be able to land your Boomerang Blade, and if you do, it does deal a lot of damage. For my Masteries, I like to go 18 Ferocity and 12 Cunning, grabbing Warlords as my Keystone Mastery. We're generally not going to be getting lifesteal until way later in the game, and Warlords is a great way to have some sustain in those fights. Now, you could opt for Fervor of Battle if you want to do a little bit more damage. Your Ricochet does work great with your ultimate with all that attack speed, so it is a viable option as well. For our runes, we go for a very generic AD carry rune setup, which is attack damage reds, armor yellows, magic resist blues, and attack speed quints. As Sivir, we're not going for an armor penetration build like a Jhin or a Misfortune, so we make much better use of this rune page. We don't bother with any armor penetration runes. Your first required summoner spell is Flash. You are an AD carry after all, and you don't have a built-in escape, so Flash is something you must grab. It will save your life in many different situations, and is also great used offensively to finish off an opponent on low health. For your second summoner slot, you'll definitely want to pick up Heal. It's really solid in the bot lane since you can save both your own and your teammate's life. It's a summoner spell you can even use offensively because it does give movement speed when you use it, and sometimes that can be enough to finish off a low health enemy that is running away. Flash and Heal are easily the best summoner spells on an AD carry at the moment, so make sure you pick them up. So now let's kick off your abilities by looking at your passive, Fleet of Foot. Sivir gains between 30 and 50 bonus movement speed for 2 seconds when she damages an enemy champion with an ability or a basic attack. So this passive won't do too much in the lane phase, but when you are chasing or trying to run away, it can be fantastic. When you are chasing an enemy and trying to kill them, by orb walking, you can easily keep up to them with the movement speed this provides. When you are running away, you can simply toss your Boomerang throw behind you, and if it does hit the enemy champion, not only will it do damage, but you will get some movement speed, which makes escaping a lot easier. Now let's look at your bread and butter ability, your Q, Boomerang Blade. Sivir shoots her boomerang in the target direction, which then returns to her. Enemies in its path take physical damage with 15% reduced damage to each subsequent target down to a minimum of 40%. Each unit can then only be damaged once per pass. So as long as you're not getting that reduced damage on a target, this has a 203.5% AD ratio. That is pretty huge. This does have a 1250 range, which is really nice for poking and last hitting from a safe distance. The problem is it does have a rather slow speed, and hitting it on a target can be rather problematic. When you are teamed with something like a Leona or Morgana that can keep something in a location, it then becomes a lot more powerful. Max this ability first and try to poke the enemy champions as much as you can. Next up is her W, Ricochet. For 4 seconds, Sivir's next 3 basic attacks bounce to nearby unaffected units, dealing them physical damage until none remain in range. If Sivir critically strikes her target, the bounces do as well, and this also resets your auto attack timer. So this ability here is great for poking and clearing minion waves. As it says, it does work until no other targets are in range, so it's a great way to clear even massive minion waves. If enemy champions are near or in the minion wave, this will also poke them, which is rather nice as well. If you're against an AD carry who struggles at last hitting under tower, this is a great ability to push them under the tower so they will miss some CS. Max this one, second. Alright, let's move on to our next basic ability, our E, Spell Shield. Sivir blocks the next enemy ability used on her within the next 1.5 seconds, restoring mana upon a successful block. So this ability has the potential to be absolutely fantastic. With this ability, she becomes a pretty good pick against things like Blitzcrank because the cooldown on this is basically the same cooldown as a grab. With this ability, you then have the potential to block something insanely important in a team fight, and that can make a big difference. You are very immobile, but if you can block a CC, then you can be very successful in a team fight. Now we do max this one last, we only need the one early point, so we do actually have an available spell shield. Alright, let's move on to the ultimate, On the Hunt. Passively, Sivir gains bonus attack speed while Ricochet is active, and this is between 30 and 60%. When activated, Sivir rallies all nearby allies for 8 seconds, granting them and herself bonus movement speed that decays to 20% after a few seconds. So this ultimate here is the main reason pros will pick Sivir. Now, she certainly doesn't have the burst or the lane control as a lot of the other AD carries out there, but this ultimate works for an entire team. You can pop this when you are going in for a team fight for a much more successful engage. Your initiators and yourself will have a much better time getting into a good position with 60% extra movement speed. You can also save this at the end for chasing people that are low that are running away, or if the team fight goes bad, of course you can pop this to run the hell away. It's got some very nice team utility, which is why Sivir is a pretty solid pick. For our skill order, we first put a point into our ultimate whenever we can at 6, 11, and 16. Then we focus on maxing our Q, Boomerang Blade, as it does have some really nice AoE clear, and it's great for poking. For basically the exact same reasons, we max our W second, but we do grab it at level 1 so we can push the wave and get a fast level 2. Last here we have our Spell Shield. As I did mention, we want one early point in it so we can actually block spells. Other than that, save it for last. Now Sivir works great with the majority of supports out there, but these three here are my favorites. So first here is Nautilus. He's not one you see very often, but he's very solid with Sivir. He's able to set up damage for Sivir with his Dredge Line and Depth Charge, and since Sivir is a rather immobile champion, he is able to help peel for her so she can kite away. He's a very solid support and works both defensively and offensively. Next up we have Morgana, and she works great with Sivir because if she can land her Dark Binding, you can land a very easy Boomerang Blade and deal a big chunk of damage. She can then even help peel for you with her Soul Shackles and use her Black Shield to block spells. You can already block one yourself, but blocking more is even better. Last here we have Sona, and she's generally always a pretty solid pick. She can use her Hymn of Valor to poke your enemies and keep you sustained with Aria of Perseverance. In teamfights, she can then also use her Crescendo to set up kills or use it more defensively to help peel if enemies do get on top of you. Like I said, there are many other support champions that work well. These are just 3 solid ones that I do like. In the lane phase, at level 1 you usually want to start with your Ricochet so you can clear minion waves and rush to level 2. As Sivir, you pretty much want to try to shove the minion wave under the enemy tower to force the enemy AD carry to try and last hit under it. Now against certain AD carries this might not be the most effective thing, but generally it is a good thing to do. Just make sure you keep your lane warded. You can then poke enemies under their own tower with your Boomerang Blade since it does have a very long range. If your support does have crowd control, try to combo it with your Boomerang Blade so you know the damage is actually going to hit. You'll also want to try to push the enemies out of lane if possible with your harassment so you can get down that tower and get that first tower bonus gold. In teamfights as an AD carry, you usually just want to attack whoever is closest to you. Keep in mind you do have your Boomerang Blade and your Ricochet to deal damage to enemies in the backline from a rather safe distance. If there are enemy carries on the front line, then you need to make sure you kill them first, but if there's only tanks, well then you have to hit the tanks. Do not move into the middle of a teamfight as Sivir. With your attack range, you're just going to get CC'd and die. Then you want to save your spell shield for when an enemy is coming in to get a kill on you, or try to hit you with a crowd control to increase your chances of surviving throughout the fight. Also, keep in mind that your ultimate is a great way to get your engagers into the team fight so you can actually start it. Now let's cover some hard AD carry matchups. First here we have Draven, and he deals a lot of damage at all stages of the game and can really bully you in lane phase with his spinning axes. He's got 50 more range than you and deals a hell of a lot more damage. Try not to get into long trades and farm safely with your Boomerang Blade if you need to. Next here is Ashe, and she's another really hard matchup. She's got 100 more attack range than you and will outtrade you by a lot with her Ranger's Focus and her Volley. If she does activate her Ranger's Focus, try not to fight her. The problem is she does have slows and you may not have a choice. So last here is Misfortune, yet again has a longer range than you and can deal a lot of damage on you with her double up. Since you need to be somewhat close to minions with the auto attack range you have, it can be somewhat easy for her to bounce a shot on you. Best you can do here, block as many as you can with your spell shield. Alright, let's finish this thing off with our item build, which starts with a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and a Warding Totem. For our core build, we have the Essence Reaver, Phantom Dancer, and Infinity Edge. The Essence Reaver is a great item on Sivir since you will get a lot of CDR from it, some nice crit, but even better is the mana return. You are a very mana hungry champion, and this will keep some mana in your mana pool. After we get that item, we get the usual Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer combo, which has a lot of crit, attack speed, and increased crit damage. For our boots, I usually just go for Berserker Greaves, but Ionians are a great pick as well if you do want to flash a little bit more often and get that extra 10% CDR since you get 30 from Essence Reaver. So for our offensive items, we first have the LDR and the Mortal Reminder, so we can get through some armor. Usually you'll want to get the LDR, but if you do need Grievous Wounds, then you gotta get the Mortal Reminder. Then, if we preferred more attack speed, we could get the Shiv, Rapid Fire Cannon, or the Blade of the Ruined King. Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon are both great picks if we do want to get a 100% crit build, but Blade of the Ruined King is fantastic for the lifesteal and for dealing extra damage onto rather tanky teams. Then your last offensive item here is a great way to get some lifesteal and a bunch of damage, the Bloodthirster. So if we want to go a bit more defensive, we first have the Mercurial Scimitar. If we do want to break CCs, it is a pretty solid item. If we're trying to survive through some AP burst, Maw is a pretty solid item as well. Then, as always, Guardian Angel, fantastic pick in the late game so we can come back to life. If we feel that our spell shield is not good enough, Banshee's Veil is another great way to block even more spells and makes us pretty solid in teamfights with all this spell shields. So, for a full damage full build, we take that core, get those Berserker Greaves, and then a Bloodthirster and an LDR. We'll have mana return, 70% crit, a lot of attack speed, some lifesteal, and even a bunch of armor penetration. So for the Mercurial full build, we take the exact same, but instead of a Bloodthirster, we get that Mercurial. It has some nice lifesteal as well, so it is a good replacement, but it's even better for breaking some CCs. But that, ladies and gentlemen, covers everything I've got on AD Carry Sivir. If you'd like to find more of our content, you can find all of our links down in the video description. Also, if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure you thumb it up, and if you are new here, you can always subscribe. We have lots of content coming out all the time. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching the guide, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!